So we're going to talk about one of our clients, Daniel. I introduced him in part 1. And what we're going to talk about is how much we're able to add in additional revenue to his hotel. We're able to add $266,000 revenue to his hotel. I'm going to explain how we're able to do this. Now, the first thing we notice is that there were a lot of leaks, and this is very common with a lot of independent hotels. There are things out there right now that's costing you a lot of money, or there are money hidden in your hotel that you haven't really uncovered. So the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be OTA commissions. And what does OTA stand for? Is online travel agency. A lot of hotel owners, particularly independent hotel owners, really rely on OTAs. And that's not a problem by itself. Where the problem is that if majority of your customers come from OTA, like for Daniel, 75% of his customers came from OTA, right? And that means for every single customer he gets, he pays a certain fee for that. So it's like a toll booth for your customers. Now, like I said, you cannot go ahead and say and discourage or cancel using OTAs. That's the word we're about to show you. What I'm about to show you is that if you're not getting customers from OTAs, you're getting customers direct from your direct bookings, right? So you direct bookings. Now, the benefit of having direct booking is that you don't have to pay commission. Now, where a lot of hotel owners get it wrong is that they completely just rely on OTAs as their only source of traffic for customers. And I'm going to show you how much that costs you for your business. Daniel was paying 20% for every single customer he got. And when we did numbers, that's basically $180,000 a year he was paying in commissions. There's a lot of money going out, right? All we just want to do is bring those numbers down and increase the number of direct bookings that we have to the hotel. Now, how do we do this? Now, you can do this simply. The first thing you do is your website. You have to fix your website. Daniel's website originally was very cumbersome, was very complicated, it wasn't easy. People would normally come to this website and then check it out, but then go to booking.com and go ahead and make their reservations over there. So you have to understand, although you're not competing with OTAs, you kind of are. So your website has to be almost better than theirs, right? It just has to be faster, easier to use, mobile friendly. And just the process just entirely has to be frictionless. It has to be very simple for someone to want to make a reservation through your own platform. So basically make it direct booking, right? That's the first thing you have to do. You have to fix that. The second thing you have to fix is rate parity. In our industry, price comparison is our business. Typical customers will go in and shop around and get the best price and the best deal. That's what a lot of customers are looking for. So if you are not fluctuating your price, basically, let me tell you this, the reason why is because Booking.com, Expedia, they always change your prices because they optimize it for the purpose of getting booking. So if they reduce the price by $5, it's going to get them more customers or more people to book your hotel. They will do that. You know what I mean? You, on the other hand, you just have a fixed price on your website. You never change it, right? So what happens is that customers will come to your website, right, and check your prices. Sometimes you may not realize it. Your website may have a higher price because your amount is fixed. So for example, if it's $150 per night, right, you never changed your prices. It's always fixed. What people will do is they'll go to OTAs like Booking.com and Expedia, and they'll realize the same price, the same hotel is going for $145 a night. Then, what is the reason for them? What's the incentive for them wanting to book directly with you? There's none. And a lot of reasons is because it's too complicated to keep track of this. You can't keep going to a website every single time and change it, although you can, but most hotel owners find this difficult because they don't have the time. And the whole purpose of all this course is because you end up focusing so much on running the day-to-day of your hotel that you really can't make strategic plans to actually drive your business forward. Now, this is something you should be thinking on, right? So losing this is just $5, right, to go to OTA. But don't forget, although they're paying $145, you still have to pay the commission. They've reduced the price and you still have to pay commission. You're losing. You can't keep things like this. So what we did for Daniel was that we added rate parity so that basically we had it automatically adjust on his website based on the level of occupancy. So meaning, what this means is that if he has a high occupancy, for example, his occupancy is at 80, 90%, the prices go higher. If there's a huge event coming around in the city, there's a huge event, we increase the price. The price goes up because there's a huge demand, there's a huge influx of demand, right? If the occupancy is low, if he has low occupancy, we bring the price down. So for example, if it's below 50% for a particular day and we want to drive more bookings, we reduce the prices on low occupancy. And this all happens automatically. Now you think this is complicated, but it's really not. It's very simple to do. It's very simple, right? The third thing we did was added an AI chatbot with 24/7 customer service. So now, anytime anybody goes to the website and has a question, the typical questions, is there breakfast included? Those are the simple questions that customers always have. There's an AI chatbot on the website that answers every single inquiry a customer has. You understand what I mean? So therefore, and this is not, because this is great because you don't have to hire anybody, like, you know what I mean? So we're constantly servicing or answering customer questions 24/7. Your business is on. This is great. Now what we did for Daniel truly transformed his whole entire business. And his direct booking went from 25%, which is what he was getting before, to 47.5%. This saves him a lot of money that he didn't have to pay, that he was paid in commissions. Now, here's something else. Here's a bonus that you have to understand why this is very important, is that now OTAs don't hold the data. You hold the customer data. Now, why is this important? It's important because if, for example, a customer comes and it comes through OTA, you don't have the customer's email. You don't know their preference. You don't know their birthdays. You don't have any information of this particular customers. So even if you wanted to upsell, or you wanted to sell them, or you wanted them to you want to incentivize them to want to book directly with you next time, you can't do it because you don't have customer information. So you don't have the data, and data is everything in today's world. Rather, if you have direct bookings, not only are you getting less, are you paying less in commissions for customers, or you own the customer data. So what happens tomorrow if you want to send them an email on their birthday, or if they have an anniversary coming up, you want to send them an email to get them to want to come and stay with you again, like, you know, those special moments. Now, if they're booking directly with you, you have the customer information and you can incentivize them to want to come in and stay with you. You can upsell them. You can sell them on the special occasions. Like, you know, these are the things you can do if you have customer data, and which is why this is very important. So not only are you saving money on commissions, but you are getting customer data. Now, all of this, you can do this for your own hotel, and you'll be able to do this and make this much, save this much money without having any extra staff. You didn't do any extra effort. It's just only systems that we just built. That's it. Nothing extra. Now let's move to the next one. So the next one we're going to look into is payroll bloat. Now, a lot of hotel owners are actually spending much more than they need to spend when it comes to payroll. And I'll explain why. When Daniel first came to us, his payroll was sitting at 45% of revenue. He was spending a lot on revenue. And it's like most typical hotel owners, well, it's predominantly independent hotel owners. The thing that challenges them the most is that whenever they have issues or challenges, they feel like maybe the solution is that they should throw more people at the problem and hopefully they'll be able to solve the issue, which is not the case. So for example, if they think of their front desk, or if their front desk comes to them and they feel overwhelmed, what typical hotel owners might do is just hire more people so that they don't feel more overwhelmed. Or if it's housekeeping and they realize housekeeping is behind, they're not clearing enough rooms fast enough, the solution is just to go ahead and hire more people. I get where you're coming from, but that's not the right approach. And if you keep doing that, it's kind of like just throwing wood into fire, but you're just wasting a lot of money. So it's not a real solution. It's just a band-aid to the problem, right? So here's typically, if you follow everything we've been doing so far, you would kind of understand how we got to this point here. Now, if you are having this particular problem, you look into your payroll and you realize it's really high. Typically for hotel industry, you should be sitting at 30, anywhere from 30 to 35 or 38. That's good enough, standard wise, right? So you want to fall within this region. Depends on your size, depends on your needs. But here's why a lot of hotel owners face this challenge. The number one reason is that they don't have an actual labor target, meaning that they don't have an actual percentage that they want to be at for their organization. The first step is having an ideal goal that you're striving for. Have that fixed number. Now, once you have that fixed number, you want to break it down by department. So if our goal is to be at 30 to 35%, we break it down by department. So how many of this 30 to 35% should go to front desk? How many should go to housekeeping? How many should go to F&B? How many should go to admin? And how many should go to engineering? You want to have those ideal targets, but you have to break it down this simple. Now, once you've broken it down this simple, you want to then assign responsibility to who is responsible for keeping these numbers, right? Or making sure you're meeting those numbers. Those are your department heads, right? So for your front desk should be at 6 to 8%. You assign that to your front desk manager, and they are in charge of making sure they meet those numbers. Now, if you do it this way, they take ownership of the goal, number one, and then they begin to come up with ways in which they can stay within those numbers. And this is where the creativity really comes in, right? Because if you have those targets, what now happens is that you start finding creative ways to stay at 6 to 8%. You realize that you don't need to keep hiring more people, because if you keep hiring more people, you're going to go over your number, which is 6 to 8% for front desk. So what you end up having is that you start having the idea of cross-training your staffs, meaning that you hire one person who can do multiple different roles, right? Instead of just hiring somebody to do just one specific task, and that's all. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, will people actually follow? Yes, they will, because you, the hotel owner, previously were doing so many roles. You were doing front desk, you were doing housekeeping, and you were doing admin, you were doing all of that. Since you can wear multiple hats, a lot of your employees can wear multiple hats too as well, right? What are the solutions if they come up with? They can come up with reducing the amount of overtimes they give to staff, meaning that they have to streamline their process. They have to become creative in ways to streamline the process of doing things so that they don't have to go towards overtime too as well. So those are creative ways that your managers could come up with to make sure that you are staying within those targets. But without those targets, how would they really know if there is a line? So think of it this way. It's like when you were a kid and you're painting thing, they draw you a line for you to stay within. So you can color within here, but don't go outside the line, right? So it's the same logic. You have to draw the boundaries for your managers for them to stay within. Because if you don't, this is what ends up happening, like what happened to Daniel, because there's no line. They just do whatever, hire people without actually thinking of the whole business as a whole, right? And 3, which we just kind of talked about, is accountability, meaning that you hold certain people accountable if they don't hit those numbers. So what we did with Daniel was that we made sure that he had 13 minutes meeting every single week with his hotel managers. This was how he was able to get the people really bought in, the numbers that you're obsessed about is what your team is going to focus on, right? So if you're obsessed about the payroll because it's way too high and you're talking about it every single week in the weekly meetings with the managers and you talk about those numbers, they become very, very conscious about it and they try to strive to make sure they are within those numbers. So this is basically what you need to do to make sure that you get your payroll under control. And I'm telling you, just having those targets alone and having those weekly meetings with whoever's responsible for making sure those numbers stay the way will truly transform your business, right? So what happened when we did this for Daniel? His percentage was at 45%. We're able to bring it down to 58%. And how much did we save him? We saved him $122,400 annually. We didn't fire anybody. We didn't fire anybody. We didn't change anything major. We just created a target. We made somebody responsible for it, for them to deliver on that target. And that's it. And that's how we're able to transform this business. So let's move to the next one. So now we're going to talk about the third leg, my favorite, which is ancillary revenue. Now, what this simply means is that this is additional revenue that you generate for your hotel, which is separate from your core offer, which is rooms, right? So any additional revenue you get other than rooms, that's all we classify as ancillary revenue. Now, the reason why a lot of hotel owners, and particularly independent hotel owners, are doing really low when it comes to this is because they are not prompting their customers enough, meaning that they are not giving more contextual offers to their customers. Now, when Daniel first came to us, he was sitting at 5% when it came to ancillary revenue. So we had to drive those numbers up. Now, the way we drive these numbers is by following a framework that I call the 3-layer ancillary system. It's very simple. The first thing is a pre-arrival smart offer. Now, when is the best time to get your customer to buy more things from you? It's when they first buy the first thing, right? So if a customer makes a booking before he comes to the room, the best time to sell him is after he's made his first reservation because they're in a buying mood. So if you offer something that's contextual and beneficial to them, the likelihood of them saying yes to that offer is significantly higher. If you wait till they get to your hotel to make them more offers, they typically will say no because they have already made all their budgets initially. So you have to squeeze your way into that period, not waiting till when they've traveled and then now they're at the hotel and you want to start giving offers. Not saying you can't convert them, but the likelihood drops significantly, right? So you want to make sure you're optimizing your prompting. Now, in your pre-arrival smart offers, what you want to do is that you want to make offers. So for example, if I'm traveling to your hotel for business, right? And I've been there before and okay, all right, I might be interested with a late checkout. You can offer that to me at a price. If I'm celebrating my anniversary with my wife, for example, in your hotel, you could offer me a special wine or a special dinner for me and my wife, you know what I mean? So things like this is what you want to think about. And as long as it's contextual, because a lot of hotel owners might feel like they don't want to send messages, they don't want to feel like this, they don't want to be salesy. No, you're not. As long as it's an offer that I care about, that's actually very helpful to me. You know what I mean? So that's the first one. Is the first layer is basically pre-arrival. So think about that. Come up with your own ideas that you could incorporate for your own hotel. Now, the next one is what we call on-site service integration. Now, what this simply means is that when the customer is in your property, you can make more offers to them. But here's the thing you have to think about is that you have to make it very frictional. It has to be a frictionless buy-in. And what I mean by that is that it was this mindset that created the whole idea of charging into the room. which is why you see a lot of hotels do that. Okay, they order something in F&B, charge it to the room. The reason for this is because it's harder to sell people when they're on the property. But if you're going to do it, you make it very frictionless, so it's easy for them to say yes. So reduce the amount of barriers for them to say yes to your offer. That's how you basically make sure that you are getting more upsells, or making more selling, or getting people to say yes to your offers more when they are on your property. So an idea could be either, for example, if you have a spa package for your hotel, what you could do is you could just have a QR code that people can scan in, and they can just simply make a booking right away. Payments have been charged to the room. Things like this is what you want to think about when you're going to make more offers when the customers are already in your property, right? So that's what you're thinking about when it comes to layer 2. Now, the third layer, which is one of the best things that's happened in today's world, as we all know, AI is important to how we do things, right? It's made things so much better. Now, think about this. If you had to do this manually, right? All of this can be done automatically. Like, you can automate most of everything I'm talking about, right? But this part here is where it becomes so much better. Now, the third layer is basically utilizing AI, memory, and personalization. In today's world, we know AI is making things so much simple, so much better, right? So you can now give more contextual offers, because you have so much information, so much data of the customers, and whatever you offer to them, it's something that you know they would like, right? So you want to use this in this way. You want to make sure that the customer feels seen, if you remembered, and they feel very valued. And just to give an example of how a lot of companies utilize this. Now, there's a bank that my mom loves, and the reason why she's a lifetime customer of this bank is simply because they send her messages for her son, which is me, on my birthdays. So every December 5th, they send her a quick little message, hey, happy birthday to your son, for heart, right? And just doing this, right, has made her a lifetime customer with this particular bank. So this is how you need to understand how important making sure your customers feel valued and heard, right? Because you can generate, imagine having a lifetime customer for your hotel. Think how beneficial that is. And how simple is it? Just by sending a message, just that simple. So we're the hospitality business. We just have to do way more than this. That's a bank. So imagine how far we can take this, or how far we should take it, right? So by doing things that make your customers feel seen, remembered, and valued, there's more money to your pocket, to be upfront, to be very frank, right? So let me just go over what we've just discussed. You want to, in order for you to serve better or be of better service to your customers, you want to basically segment your market, meaning that you categorize them. For example, if there are people, if you have tourists who come to your hotel, you want to categorize them and give them a contextual offer. If you have people come for anniversaries or romantic getaways at your hotel, you want to give a contextual offer to them. If you have a lot of business people who come to your hotel, you want to create a contextual offer for that. So, you understand? That's this, and then a contextual offer, and you want to make sure that it's frictionless. Make it very easy for them to say yes. Reduce any barriers, and then utilize AI memory. We need to give you much more detailed, so basically analyze the data much better and give your customers exactly what they're looking for. Because there are a lot of hotel owners who don't want to be too salesy. You were not too salesy if you apply this whole process, simply because you are offering me what I want. So if you know I like a particular, or I always request for a late check, offering a late checkout to me before I even step into your hotel at a particular price is not you trying to force sell me. Like, it's something that I would actually appreciate. So thank you very much for doing that. Yes, I will take that offer. That's the way you want to place your offer to your customers. And by doing this, you're going to get a very good result when it comes to increasing your revenue, your ancillary revenues for your organization. Now, when we did this for Daniel, his number went from 5% to 13.5%. And that was an additional $8,500 a month. And he was able to make $102,000 a year from just doing this to his hotel. Next, we're going to the last one, which is going to be LTV. Perfect. So leak number 4, which is the lifetime value, just floats perfectly from leak number 3, which we talked about, ancillary revenue. So if you get leak number 3 really fixed, it trickles down and fixes leak number 4, but with just a few things we add onto it. Now, what we're talking about is the lifetime value. Now, the lifetime value of the customer is the reason why we're going to talk about this is because a lot of businesses obsess about just getting new customers. That's all they're focused on, right? You spend so much money on running more ads, your reviews, making sure that you're ranking up top, just so obsessed with getting new customers, not realizing that it sometimes costs you 5 to 10 times more trying to obsess about getting a new customer than just simply getting customers to be repeat guests for your hotel, right? Because you're so obsessed, and this is typically what ends up happening. You have them check in, they check out, and nothing happens with that. You don't send them a follow-up message. You don't have any data information on your customers. You don't give them a reason for them to come back and spend with you again, right? So this is something that we have to fix. And before we fix it, I want you to understand how valuable this is. So, and the proper calculations if you want to calculate your guest LTV, so you can see the numbers and you can see it for yourself. Now, the formula for calculating the guest LTV stands for lifetime value. You understand that? You want to look at the average spend of a customer at your hotel. You want to multiply that by the frequency of return within the certain period. So let's say, how many times do they come back in a year? Then you want to multiply that by the retention time, meaning how many years do they typically want to do business with you. So take, for example, you have a customer who spends on average $500 at your hotel. Now, they come twice a year at your hotel. So that's for 2 years, that's the frequency. Now, the retention time, you typically keep a customer for 3 years. Now, what is the value of this one customer? Now, when you multiply that, you get $3,000 per customer. So that's your LTV, that's how you calculate it. Now, multiply that by the total number of customers that you normally have that repeats the same cycle. Let's say it's 200. Meaning that your total LTV is 600,000. So that's the value of making sure you have repeat customers. And you have to understand the difference between this versus obsessing about new customers is the expenses and the cost it takes you to keep acquiring new customers. To have this happen is not as expensive as trying to get a new customer, because here you have to pay more for adverts. You have to chase reviews. You have to obsess about ranking on Google and so many things like that. But here, all you have to obsess about is delivering great customer service. And like we talked about in ancillary revenue, being best about the customer. And this automatically falls on your lap without you having to do anything. Now, there's a quote I want to share with you from Dan Kennedy that says, you don't get a customer to make sales. You make sales to get a customer. And what this simply means is what we just talked about, is trying to get a customer for life, to want to spend more with you because it costs you less to keep them. Right? So, for Daniel, when he came to us, we did something very simple. As long as you've gotten your answer with, you did everything we talked about in your ancillary revenue, if you get that done really well, it trickles down over here. And all you now have to do, and all we did for Daniel was simple. We did not create a complicated points program, because places like Marriott, Hilton, they all have loyalty programs and things like that. And that's on the back end of this logic. right? This is why they have, if you've ever wondered why Marriott has a loyalty program, it's because they understand how much they generate. And actually, a customer, they get millions from just one customer for Marriott. That's how well their loyalty programs are. So for you, and what we did for Daniel, something you can copy, is that we just simply created a return code, a VIP return code. Meaning that if a customer stays with us, we give them a special code that they can go on our website and just simply plug that in so that they can get special offers that are tailored for returning guests. And that's all we did. And this had a huge impact in the life cycle of the business and the customers. It's very simple, and it's something you should do, and don't overlook it, because this is how much is on the table for just a customer who spends $500 every single time at your hotel. So now we're going to go over everything we've just discussed. Just going over everything we've just covered so far, right? So the first thing we looked at for the leaks was OTA saving. So you understand now you can reduce commission by increasing your direct bookings. So simply work on your website and all those things to simply improve on direct booking. Next is payroll bloat. This, what you need to focus on is making sure that you have actual targets and you break those targets down each department to strive for, and come up with creative ways to make sure you reduce your payroll expenses. Next is your ancillary revenue, and this ties into delivering great contextual offers to your customers to increase your ancillary revenue. Next is your loyalty, and your ancillary revenue and your loyalty ties together, because having customers for life or having customers who are repeat customers cost you way less than obsessing about getting new customers. So after all of this, we are finally through with step 5, which is mastering your numbers. And with this, you kind of know what numbers are important, what numbers to tweak, to dial, to generate much more revenue for your hotel. So next we'll move into is step 6. We're going to basically talk about what success looks like for you. So now we're going to talk about you, which is step number 6. We're going to define what success looks like for you. So if you have followed every single step up until this, you would have already built a proper system for your hotel, where you are no longer the center of it all. So step number 6, what I wanted to talk about is, now that you've achieved this, you have a new identity of somebody who works or who's honestly operating the hotel. Now, what is your new job description? You have to redefine what that is for yourself. And here is what would help you in that aspect. So your new job description has to be the opposite of what you were doing before. Now, before, what you did was managing people, but now what you do is you manage the results, right? And before, what you did was you stepped in and solved the majority of the problems. What you now do is design systems. So the systems that we have been talking about from step 1 up until we've got to step 6, those are the systems that you have to focus on building for your business. Now, before you were working in the business, now you're working on the business. So a lot of the strategies, everything we've talked about, it's now time for you to start implementing it for your hotel and for your organization. That's what it means, which is focusing on the business rather than focusing on in the business. Previously, you were stepping in to check in guests, responding to emails, answer phone calls. That's what you were doing previously. Now you need to focus on making sure you increase your ancillary revenue, coming up with strategies, for your marketing, for your pricing structure, your pricing strategies, things like that are what you focus on, because those have a greater impact. There's a more return on investment on those tasks than what you were previously doing. Before, you were very reactive, you were reacting to things that were happening. Now you become more predictive. If you begin to see a trend of your guest satisfaction score, so your reviews are going down in a particular aspect or particular thing is causing complaints. For example, if it's housekeeping, we're complaining about housekeeping. You need to be predictive and see, okay, that's having a bad trend. How can we step in and fix those things before it gets worse? Predictive things, or put a system so that your GSS scores never go down when it comes to housekeeping. Things like that, what you need to think about. So this comes down to our 5-hour work week that we have been talking about since from the beginning. Now, in the 5-hour work week, I want to explain what you're actually doing. This is what we do for a lot of our clients. So you see what their work week looks like now. So now, as the owner, you have to create your own owner dashboard. You have an owner dashboard where you track certain KPIs, and here are some 5 KPIs that are absolutely important for hotel owners like yourself. The first thing you care about is your labor percentage. You want to track those numbers. We've talked about them previously, and how to make sure that you're monitoring the targets. So remember your new task, managing results is what you're doing. So you manage the result over here. You want to track your gross operating profit available room. You want to make sure you track those numbers because that's very important. You want to track your direct booking percentage. You understand why when we talked about that previously. Next, you want to track your guest satisfaction score because this tells you the health of your hotel. You want to track your ancillary revenue. This is additional revenue that you can make for your hotel. You want to track these numbers. By tracking these numbers, it gives you a better idea as to how things are going or how healthy your whole hotel is or where you're falling short. And with these numbers, you can then direct your team to focus and improve on those particular aspects. So those are the things that you want to track for your hotel. You want to be able to see this as a glance, right? Because this is important because you can then be able to instruct your team on what they should focus on, and they take ownership on those particular numbers so they can know what to do to improve your hotel overall, right? So next is what you do is have weekly review meetings with your team. You want to have weekly review meetings, and this is very simple now because now what you want to do is you just want to simply ask your team 2 questions, right? Just simply 2 questions. What improved? What slipped? That's it. Then they'll begin to tell you. And then you begin to pick on what you're going to fix, and you fix them one at a time. You don't do everything all at once. You fix one particular thing. This week, you want to make sure you see the difference the following week, right? And like I told you earlier, if you track the correct things, right? If you know exactly what to track and why you're tracking it, it's easier to manage your whole entire thing. And it's easier to manage your whole entire business, right? So that's what you do. Then also you now have a monthly strategy meeting with your team. Now this is where you start to plan most of your overall, this is what I call maybe your federal decision making. So I call them the federal decision making things. So things that are like your pricing strategies, your staffing priorities, your marketing campaigns. These are all federal level decisions that you need to make for your hotel. So you want to make sure you have monthly strategy meetings. So this is typically what a 5-hour work week comprise as a hotel owner that is an absentee hotel owner, meaning that we're not tied into the operations of your hotel any longer. Rather, you are a strategic, or we'll call you an architect. You're architecting the success of your hotel, right? So what I want you to show you here is basically what you now have, if you have all of this, is you have clear expectations because you know what you're targeting over here. You give each of your team managers or team leaders autonomy, meaning that they're responsible for achieving their respective goals in each of this. Things like that. Those are the things that they begin to think and come up with ideas to solve that because you have given them the autonomy. Next is you want to review the outcomes. You want to basically see the results that each of these attains and then begin to make decisions based on these things, right? Next, you want to adjust if needed. So if there's anything that needs to be adjusted based on the results that you're getting, that's all you do. So this is your new role. This is what you're doing. This is your new job description, as an absentee hotel owner. So far, what we've done is basically, you've built the systems, you have trained the leaders, you have mastered your numbers, and now you've defined what your new role, which is your new. We define what success looks like for you now. The next thing is we're going to amplify all of this with technology. That's all we're going to do. We're going to look at how we can use technology to make all of this so much better, which is step number 7. Step 7, where we launch with confidence. This is actually an interesting part because if you've done everything from step 1 to step 6, you're basically fine. You're good to go. That's all you need. But this step here, step 7, where we launch your confidence, is actually very interesting, and I'll explain why. Now, there's 2 ways you can approach this, right? So you could build everything we've talked about and you can do it manually, right? But in this step, what I want to implore is that we do it and we switch to the digital versions of everything we've actually created. And I will explain why. Now, if we've done everything manually, you would find that the systems that you've created is still fragile. And we are obsessed about the idea of being an absentee owner, so an absentee hotel owner, where all the system we've built and everything we've built for our hotel operate without us, right? So what we're trying to build is an anti-fragile system. Simply means that it's resilient, it doesn't crack under pressure. Now, if you build everything manually, the problem is that, for example, if you build your SOPs on pieces of paper, you could lose those SOPs. That's an actual thing that can happen, right? If you're tracking every single thing manually on your spreadsheet and you're a hotel owner who wants information right away, you have to wait for a team to actually update and send them to you. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but the problem is that the system is still fragile, right? And I'm obsessed about making everything better. So which is why we're tackling this in this step. The whole work just feels clunky. It's not smooth. It's not automated. Versus if we had the proper anti-fragile system where it's your whole hotel has a digital version that lives online. And what this looks like is like your systems are mostly all cloud-based and they're all synchronized, meaning from anywhere in the world, you can have access and see everything that every operations of your whole hotel. You know what I mean? Most of the systems are automated. You can access them and it makes it easier to run your hotel and it makes your system much more robust, and the likelihood of things breaking down is much more difficult. And I will explain that even further, right? And that is why I created the 7 clear systems. And these systems, right, are what we have already built already. So it's not like we're creating anything new. We're just taking everything that we've built and making it more digitalized, right? And I call this the digital twin. So basically, what you're doing here is creating a digital twin of your whole hotel to make sure it lives online, accessible whenever you want. It's just an anti-fragile system. That's what I want to stress about. So, like I told you, all of this, don't get scared. We've already built every single thing from step 1 to step 6. And all we're doing here is just digitalize it every single step. Now, the first one here is your cloud PMS and channel managers. I want my PMS system, which is my booking systems and all those things, to all be on a cloud-based PMS. Your bookings, your inventory, everything should be on a cloud-based software. So you find the right software that can centralize all your bookings, all your inventory, everything, all in one place that you can have access to and that you can see. The second one is your revenue management system. This is basically where we track all your rates, everything. So rather than having to manually go in and change your rates that we talked about in the previous step and adjust things to make sure that you are actually having rate parity, you can do this automatically, preferably if it's AI powered. Make sure to change it so that you don't lose money. The third one here is your CRM and your automated messages. You want your messages to be automated, your pre-arrival messages to be automated, your upselling should be automated, your review requests should all be automated. Because if you rely on the manual approach, what if a staff forgets to send the message? What if they make a mistake in sending the message? Things like those kind of things causes your system to be fragile. What if they decide not to do it? But rather, these are very simple tasks because they're very simple. Because they're so easy to do, they're also easy to miss. That's something you have to think about. So if these are all automated, you don't have to rely on any person. Rather, you're relying on a system or an app or things like that, right? And maybe one person could be in charge of making sure this happens. So think about how amazing that would be for yourself, that you don't even have to worry about that ever, right? Does that make sense? Next is digital audit and accountability platform. So you want to make sure you're able to audit your team much frequently. A lot of all the big teams do this. They send out auditors to go and audit each of their properties to make sure that they're adhering to the standards, the SOPs, and things like that, right? So you want to have a digital platform that has that you can give to your management team to either, or you can give it to random students to go in and audit your whole operations for your hotel to make sure that we are following or we're adhering to the brand standards. Preferably, if this platform could be a digital platform, that could be amazing rather than having pieces of paper. There are softwares that do all of this, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you, right? Okay, so number 5 here is our learning and onboarding. Basically, what you want is you want all your information to all be one search away. So this includes your training checklists, your onboarding checklists, things like this that were previously created. You don't want them to be in a binder and you store them in a drawer and you forget about it. If people need information from it, they should be able to go to a place and search and be able to pull out information. So that's what you want to do. So that's what the whole point is: digitalize most of everything that we have built. And the whole goal is so that you no longer have to be the go-to person people have to come to for answers. So number 6 is owner analytics dashboard. This is where you track all the KPIs. So all the KPIs we mentioned in step 6, you want to be able to have just a dashboard, a centralized dashboard that you can just quickly go to in less than 10 seconds. You have all the information and you can know how healthy your hotel actually is. Number 7 is the absentee booking, which is my SaaS product I created because I'm obsessed about creating actual absentee owners. And with this SaaS product, I can track my hotels, bookings, reservations, payments, all of that from just my phone. So it's a software that I and my team created for hotel owners particularly. So this just seals all of this and makes this whole thing a reality. So what I want you to take away from this is that all of this has already been built. We've done all of this process. All I'm just recommending that you really do is digitalize every single one of those steps. And it makes it very, very solid. So now you go from having a fragile system to an anti-fragile system, all with the help of the absentee method. So, hope that's been helpful. Thank you.